This video focuses specifically on quartiles and how to calculate quartiles on paper. So first of all, let's go over our quartiles. The first is the 25th, second is the 50th, third is the 75th, and the fourth is the 100th. So the first formula is how to calculate the index point, and what that means is what point in this order does that quartile appear, or which point represents that quartile. But the actual value is the number at that index point. So let's look at how to calculate the first quartile, which is the 25th percentile. So you use your formula I equals P over 100. Now, for your first quartile, we know that P, the percentile, is 25. And the way to remember that is, if you have 1/4, you have 25 cents. And then N here, you have to count the number of data points that you have. So N is always your sample size. I believe we have 13. So we know that N is 13. So when we do 25 over 100, or you can say 0.25 times 13, you get 3.25. Now we have to use this rule that if our index point is not an integer, we are going to always round up when we're doing quartiles. So your index point is the fourth data point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be the 25th percentile, which is your first quartile would be 16. And for your second quartile, you do the same thing, except this time it's the 50th percentile, and you do the 50th 0.5 times 13, which would be 6.5. So always round up, and you would get the 7th spot. So 5, 6, 7. So this would be your 50th percentile. So your second quartile would be 23. For your fourth quartile, for your third quartile, we know our fourth quartile would be the last number. They're not asking in the homework to calculate the fourth, but it would always be your last data point. So this time we're going to do I equals 75 over 100 times 13, which would be 9.75. That's going to round to 10. So we need to find the 10th number. So 8, 9, 10. So our index point, our data point at the 10th index point is 27. So that was our index. Our third quartile is 27. Now, to find your interquartile range, you always take your third quartile and subtract your first quartile So that would be 27 minus 16, which is 11. Now this, I am showing you the way that eText does it and the way it is calculated in your homework. Is there an easier way or a different way to work this? Yes. So if you understand it, you don't necessarily have to work it the way that it is shown in the eText. Just make sure that you understand it. But I decided to do it this way so it would be consistent with the eText. One more thing I want to show you is what if you didn't have a decimal? What if your index point is actually an integer? So let me show you what that would look like real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the last number off. So now n is equal, I'm just going to do that down here. So that now n is equal to 12. So since n is equal to 12, let me show you what happens. I'm just going to do the 25th percentile. So your index point would be, your first quartile would be 25 over 100 times n, which is now 12. Well, that's basically 1/4 of 12. So your index is an integer. So what you have to do is you have to go to the third index point and the fourth index point, and you have to average those two numbers. So that's an easy one actually, because the average of 16 and 16 is 16. So your first quartile would be 16. Let's go on to the second quartile just to see. Okay, so for the second quartile, we would do I equals 50 over 100 times 12, which is 6. So we're going to take the average of the 6th and 7th number. And I need to emphasize, make sure you put these in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to get an average of those two numbers. So 22 plus 23 divided by 2, 45 over 2, which would be 22.5. So our second quartile, depending on how they want you to round on the homework, let's look real quick. It says type integers or decimals. So what we would want to do here is we would want to leave it as 22.5 for the second quartile. So the first quartile was 16 and the second quartile was 22.5. And you could continue with this, but I just wanted to show you an example if you have an integer for your index point. So that is how you calculate quartiles. Let me know if you have any questions.